But you know what? Those aren't the only types of questions. You're now in your interview process. You've gathered information from a free recall in a free recall account where it's messy, it's puking everything up, it's all over the place. You have now lengthened the highway by doing those what happened next type questions or what happened before. You now have a lot of actions. And at this point, you should be able to go, if this was proven, if we agree that this actually happened the way this witness said it, would it actually be an offense? You have the information at that point to decide, because it doesn't matter whether the guy at the bus station or at the bus stop was named Bob or Fred. It doesn't matter what time it happened. It doesn't matter where it happened, other than maybe at an intersection. You would know by the actions that something was either wrong or right. Okay? And it gives you the ability to decide where you're going to go. However, most of our interviews aren't that lucky, are they? So what we're going to have to do now is we have listened to the narrative. We've listened to that information that's all over the place. But I want you to think, are there areas there that I talked about that still need to be dug into or excavated? Because I'm going to suggest there are, and this is where these depth questions come in. And some are open, some are what we call probing, and some are closed. Here's the difference between the other type, though. This is to get detail on what we've already heard, right down to the word choice that they use for items and people and actions. Before that, we were just trying to find out the actions, that hadn't been mentioned yet. So this is going back to digging. Let's look how that works, okay? And this is where some of you may have been taught differently and you just left going, I am so confused. I want you to think here. How many of you were told that you should be interviewing with only open questions? Because if you were told that, it was a huge disservice to you. You cannot hold a discussion, a conversation, using only open questions or what we call open prompts or invitations. These ones that are truly open are like tell, explain, describe, or show. And we have an acronym TEDS for this, because you could say, tell me about what happened. You mentioned you heard a sound, explain that or describe that. Or you mentioned that you parked your car, show me where. Okay, those sort of things. What we're doing is, you will notice they're considered open because I'm not, right down to the word choice, not inserting anything that was not already mentioned to me by that witness. But again, you cannot hold a conversation like that without sounding like you're a Star Wars character like C-3PO or somebody, okay? You want to be human. So as we go down this funnel, you're going to notice that the productivity, so the amount of information that is expected from the question type and the reliability are going to be diminished. That just naturally happens. However, there's a way around this. So try starting off with something like, you mentioned you heard a sound. Describe that sound. You may then go down to, what did it sound like? Okay, the who, what, when, where, why, and how, or where did this happen, or where were you when you heard that sound? And then you might be going to a did you, or were you, or is she type of question that generally would expect a one-word answer, yes or no type questions. Now, we were taught in the past, stay up on this top rung because they're the most productive. The problem is that you lose in other ways. So I'm going to suggest that I want you to go up and down this. You don't want to be caught on any rung for too long, but I want you to know that you're allowed to be fluid. And probably the best way to do this is to show you with an example. Let's say that there was an SUV that was involved in this collision that we just talked about. Okay, and you want to know the color of that vehicle from the witness. Well, Murphy's Law of interviewing will tell you that you're going to say, tell me everything about this. And they will say, yeah, and there was an SUV. It was a Honda CRV. And they will mention all the details about what you wanted, which was the color. I don't know why that happens, but expect the unexpected. Okay. Now, we want that color. And here's what I mean by being fluid and using this as a framework that is flexible. You don't have to keep repeating the same, describe the car, and see if by chance, miraculously, they're going to throw the color in. You're allowed to go down to the next level and say the obvious question, which is, what color was that CRV? And then it doesn't necessarily end there if you're allowed to go up and down, because if they said, for instance, oh, it was gray, how many shades of gray are there? Now, for every lady that's out there, I want you to think what jumps into your mind on that. And if you follow, I don't know, movies, you might say there's 50 shades of gray. Okay. Now, does it make a difference? Yes, it could investigatively. You want specific detail, what we call fine-grained detail. So you would say, okay, so it was gray. You could either go up to here and say, tell me about that, explain gray, describe gray, or if there was a way, show me what you mean by gray, thereby going up and down the funnel. And that is far more conversational than trying to just get the person to give you something that will not happen and will drive all of you nuts.